Alright guys, here we are, 3 years after my last video with my first car, my 2001 Acura Integra LS. And I've done a lot more modifications to the car since that video. So I figure it was about time to make another one. Alright, my last video started at the back of the car, but since the most glaring modification is at the front of the car, I guess we'll start at the front. So I've installed a carbon fiber hood, as you can see. It is a vented first molding carbon fiber hood. I selected the option with the, I think it's polycarbonate bottom and the carbon fiber top, just because of price. It fits just like an OEM hood. It uses the OEM latch. There's no need to drill and use aftermarket hood latches like the quick latches and the old style where you have to flip open a little compartment and pull the pins out. I wasn't too big of a fan of that look. And now, getting up close to the vent, you could see the black wire, the valve cover peeking through, and the VTEC solenoid. I think having that stuff visible, just when you're walking up on the car, is very nice. I have ceramic coated this hood multiple times, and I try my best not to, use microfibers on it so I don't induce any swirl marks or anything. But, yeah. I think I've gotten the gaps pretty okay as far as the side gaps where they meet the fenders. Front gap is okay. I figured there'd be some variance with it being an aftermarket part and not as heavy as the metal hood, which I still have. It's just chilling in the box that the hood came in right here. But I guess I'll show you how the latch situation is. Okay, so here's the latch that comes with the hood. It's just secured by 4 bolts, which I Loctited on there. And yeah, goes into the OEM catch with no issues. I did change the cable going into the car just because it was old. And I did fit a new seal while they were still available. I don't think they're available anymore, but I haven't looked. I guess we'll move on to the engine bay now. So I have changed out my old eBay strut bar to a DC Sports one-piece strut bar, just because I figure it being one piece, it'd be more rigid and actually do something compared to the multi-piece strut bar. I do want to take off the DC Sports logo. I'll get to that at some point, I guess. I have also added an oil-air separator, just because I figure it's a high-revving engine. Hondas burn oil. Why not? In my last video, it showed the intake pipe being wrinkle black, but over time, that paint started to chip off, so I figure instead of that making the whole bay look kind of ratty, I decided to sand off all that paint and go for the heat tape look. I like it. It adds a bit of variety to the colors in here. What else? There is this, I guess it's a cooling plate, but the primary reason I got it was to cover up all the scratches that are underneath this piece. And as far as doing that, it works pretty good. I figure putting your IG handle in the engine bay is a bit less cringe than putting it on your window. What else? Added the spoon radiator cap and the spoon oil cap. I also remember that in my last video, I had the stock LS header on the Type R, and I did say that I had a Toto replica header for the car, and I ended up selling that because for the life of me, I couldn't get it to not leak. I tried a bunch of stuff. I messed with it for days, but no luck. So I managed to find a 1997 spec Integra Type R header on Marketplace. So I bought that, I painted it up, and I converted from bolts to studs. And I made this heat shield because I thought my LS one would fit, but it didn't. So until I find an actual Type R one, I'm going to rock this. Something very minor is the throttle cable bracket. In my last video, it was just the LS one that I bent and painted so that it would work, but I did get a proper P73 one, and now it's just on there with Resto Tuner hardware. I think it looks pretty good. Nice little detail. The intake manifold is still skunk 2, injectors are still stock, the ECU is still stock, for now. I guess now I'll get to the most obvious change in here, and that is the coil unplug conversion. There's actually a story behind why I did it. So, in October 2024, I entered this event in Rhode Island called the Audrain Concourse. and it's about 200 miles away from where I live. I was meeting up there with a bunch of other car friends from the Massachusetts, Boston area. But so I was driving there. When I was 100 miles away from home and 100 miles away from where I had to go, the ICM in the factory style distributor went out on me. And that was pretty, a humbling experience, if you will. I so happened to be carrying a spare ICM, and where the car had broke down on me, I managed to roll off the highway, and I was on the side of an off-ramp. So I had space, and nobody was really around, so I got lucky there. But after that experience, I was just like, no, I gotta get rid of this thing. I'm taking this variable out of the equation. So I was like, does anybody offer something that doesn't require a standalone? So I had heard of the DigiDizzy very early on in its product days, but I never thought I would actually pull the trigger on one. As far as the install, just take out your old distributor and just pop the DigiDizzy onto the engine. Setting up timing, very simple. He has a bunch of videos on how to do it. Everything bolted up nice. K20 coils. He supplied the coil mounting plate. I do kind of want to switch it out for a silver one, but I'll get to that eventually. So I did run into one issue when I was installing the DigiDizzy. It was the same issue that I had when I was swapping the car to manual all those years ago, where the tachometer would get to 5,000 RPM, and then it would drop back down to 0. So based off that, I knew it was a signal issue. So these Hondas can get tachometer signal from two places. There is a pin on the ECU, and there's the signal directly behind the cluster that comes out to the strut tower, where the clutch master cylinder is. For the auto to manual swap, I had gotten signal directly from the distributor, connecting it to the wire by the clutch master cylinder. But that was still connected, and it was still doing it. So I had to go look at the ECU and remove that pin from the connector. And did that, and now everything's working fine. Now looking at the car from this perspective is mostly unchanged. I do have a custom plate now, 4 eyes, because I wear glasses and the car has 4 eyes, I guess, being a USDM front Integra. If you notice, the passenger side indicator light now has a hole in it, and behind that hole there is a tube running to the bottom of the airbox, so it's kind of like my own little DIY Home Depot style Comtech icebox. The indicator still works, I'll show you in a second. But yeah. Getting up close here, this black stuff is just door edge protector from AutoZone. It's a nice, cheap, simple way to cover up rough edges whenever you have to make cuts with the Dremel. Now, as far as the interior, there have been a few changes. I guess the most prominent of which is this Sparco Sprint. Actually, I do believe that this is more comfortable, with this cushion anyway, than the factory seat. I took this all the way to Rhode Island, and I was perfectly fine as far as my back. Steering wheel is still a Momo Monte Carlo, and I still have the same quick release setup, but you see the signature here. This wheel was actually signed by Keiichi Tsuchiya, who visited New Jersey a few months ago, so I figure I had to take something for him to sign. So I got my phone holder down there, same Circuit Hero shift knob and hybrid racing shifter. I think in the last video I had a Perseverance sticker here, and now it says Mindset. I just like the roses. And you notice these little brushed aluminum stick-on thingies. I tried not to get too crazy with it. I just wanted to tie together this whole thing right here with some more of the interior and the shift knob and stuff. Something else notable is that I did manage to rewire the cruise control in this car. Now, these buttons are from a Honda Prelude, actually, and I believe they're the same as an EK. And I 3D printed this bracket right here, so it would fit in my quick release, and it bolts up, and it's nice and strong, doesn't go anywhere. The cruise control actually works, so I like that quite a bit. I put a Taku logo here, just because, if you know, you know. But yeah, 3D printing is something else I've taken up recently. What else can I talk about in here? I did switch shifter bushing. So the bushing at the back of the linkage is still polyurethane, but the bushing on the transmission is actually a factory bushing because it makes it a bit easier to push the shifter into gear. I thought there was a bit too much resistance. I'm even considering going back to a factory style shifter. I've been looking at the B&M shifter, but I guess we'll see. And I think in my last video I didn't have the X brace, but I said I was going to get one, and I did get one. Just the PLM X brace, nothing crazy. Now the back of the car, nothing really to talk about from the last video that's different. I did put a Gran Turismo plate frame on the car, so that's something, I guess. And, oh, the exhaust setup is a bit different. I know I mentioned before I have the 97 spec Type R header, but I also added a PLM bolt-on high-flow cat. So it sounds a little more raspy. Now at this point I'm trying to remember if there's anything I'm leaving out. The AC compressor still needs to be changed, so that's something. Oh, I did put this engine on an ATI super damper, so there's that as well. I did do a track day with this car. I'll put some pictures after this clip that I'm doing right now. I had to tape up the front of the bumpers so I could avoid rock chips. I went to Englishtown to do the road course class, and the track there is pretty rough. I'm not sure if I'll bring this car back there. For wheels, I still have my Cozy K1s. They're still powder coated the same polar white. But I did put them on some, I think they're 240 treadwear Yokohama Fleva V701s, I'm pretty sure. And I did the whole tire lettering thing. And I did manage to do the budget Type R brakes. So a Mini Cooper rotor and Prelude CRV Odyssey caliper with a Hawk TSX pads. Highly recommended. I remember in my last video that I mentioned that one of my 6ULs was bent. So that and the fact that I had to plastic up my last set of 6ULs to get them to look how I wanted them to, I was like, let me just get rid of them. So I decided to, since they brought them back, I bought the Generation 5 6UL. So come Black Friday, I'm going to get some tires, probably some 200 treadwears of some variety, and just get them on the car as soon as possible. Can't wait for that. I guess now I'll talk about that event in Rhode Island that I went to. So the event was the Audrain Newport 2024 Concours d'Elegance, and I entered my Integra in a class called 30 Under 30. For that class, the car has to cost less than $30,000 to build, and the owner has to be under 30 years old. So, you know, to my surprise, I managed to place third. So that's a pretty fun memory. I'll put some pictures on the screen now of like the scenery and all the other cars there. Great time, great time. Maybe I should film in portrait.
Dude, this thing is crazy. Thank you. Practically go. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So.
Look at that thing.
Cool. Turbos are they're a little tough.
Yeah, I drove
this
one.
This thing is quick though.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So they're kind of like a little.
Oh, look at that thing. Yes. I guess conclusively, I'm very happy I still have the car, you know? I'm very happy to keep refining it. Hopefully, there's more adventures to come in the future. I do plan on also doing videos about my other two cars. If you look at my channel, you'll see I also have an S2000, and I still have my other daily driver on top of that, so stay tuned for those. Thanks for watching.